Welcome to It's a Crime. I'm Linda, and today I'm going to continue my Connecting the Dots series in the Suzanne Morphew case. So far, I've done two theories. Number one, the mountain lion theory, and number two, the abduction theory. You can check out those videos in the description below. Today, I'm introducing something that has been weighing on my mind for quite some time since the video was released by Tyson Draper with Barry Morphew. Barry Morphew mentioned a triangle in this video, and I feel like it's something that shouldn't go unnoticed. So today I'm going to talk about the triangle theory. But before I get into it, if you'd like to be part of the It's a Crime community, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Also hit the notifications to all. Please share this video out where you can and give it a thumbs up. Now, let's get into it. Like I mentioned, the triangle was something Barry Morphew mentioned in Tyson Draper's video back in June of this year. It referred to an area Barry was confident that Suzanne wasn't in. In the video, Barry talks about all kinds of directions of where the search has been taking place and where search and rescue has covered in their search and where his friends searched. So I'm going to explain some of his actions in the timeline that relate to this theory, and also the directions and areas he's given to Tyson, and dive in a little bit to where those areas are and also show you my thoughts on the triangle. Now let's play the clip first of what he says about it.
We've covered all of this really good, this triangle with search and rescue. So we're pretty comfortable that she's not in this triangle between the RV park, your truck, this road, and then the next road.
So in the video, Barry is talking about the Monarch RV park. He then refers to Tyson's truck, and then this road being the road where the bike was found, and then the next road. What's important to note is this is the triangle surrounding Suzanne and Barry's house. But to Barry, Tyson technically wouldn't know that location, and Barry doesn't disclose that to him. So the Monarch RV park is to the east of the house, then Tyson's truck, which would be just a bit further than where Suzanne's bike was found, and then this road, which is County Road 225, and then the next one is the road behind Barry's house. Interesting, isn't it? Note in that picture that I have, there's also 3 bodies of water, just an observation. So a few days after Suzanne was reported missing, the authorities got a hold of Barry's phone and, from my understanding, his truck as well. Now, there was an article with Fire Chief Robert Bertram who stated Barry's driving up and down the road that week trying to remember if he saw any suspicious vehicles. Here's what it says. He's going out, driving up the road, and trying to remember any suspicious vehicles that he's seen. The last report I got from people is that Barry is having a difficult time sitting still and pacing back and forth, constantly looking out the window, hoping he can see her. So the question arises, when would Barry have seen the suspicious vehicle? He left at 4 a.m. that Sunday morning, and Suzanne's scenario played out like she disappeared after that. And let's be real for a minute. Maysville is a town of 135 people. And Barry has been up and down this road how many times in the last 2 years that he's lived in Colorado? You get to know people, you get to know their vehicles, I'm sure you would agree, and you would know what vehicle is different on the road pretty darn quick. So I think if there was a suspicious vehicle, he'd know well before, not after the fact trying to jog his memory, in my opinion. What are your thoughts on that? Let me know in the comments below. Next, hundreds of searchers came to search the area for Suzanne. Barry is seen putting up trail cams, and my understanding, around the property. So why so paranoid is my question. What is he trying to look out for? He's not saying, hey guys, thanks so much for going to look for my missing wife. Instead, he's putting up trail cams, being on the lookout. My question is, for what? Or better yet, where? I think in Barry's eyes, perhaps Andy got too close for comfort in the search, and perhaps that's why the timing of the selling of the house. And what I mean by that is perhaps Suzanne is closer than we think. Now, in Tyson's video, Barry talks about directions in various aspects. Let's explore that. He says, right away, we searched. It's never going to hurt to retrace searches. We searched a 200-mile radius. All of the mountains have been covered so far, but obviously we are going to miss things. Let me show you what happened. And before I play this clip, he says it's never going to hurt to retrace searches. He doesn't say retrace our steps, which I find very interesting. That sticks out to me. And if you watched my previous videos, you know I talk about the 200-mile radius, and that would mean pretty much the entire state of Colorado and then some. There's some exaggeration, much like his buddy doing 400 tours in Iraq and Afghanistan. Here's the clip.
But we've searched. It's never going to hurt to retrace searches. But we've searched a 200-mile radius.
What? Really?
All of the mountains have been covered so far, but obviously we're going to miss things.
Right.
So let me show you what happened.
Then he talks about the triangle. He says we've covered that, all of this really good, this triangle with search and rescue, so we're pretty comfortable that she's not in this triangle between the RV park, your truck, this road, and the next road. Then Barry talks about the article that was found. He says they found an article going west of hers, and he says they won't tell us. He says what it is, so they sent another team after they found the article that covered this hillside all the way down to the river pretty good. And here's that location. The article was along the highway. The authorities shut it down on Friday after she was reported missing almost a week later. He's talking about the mountain and all the way down to the Arkansas River. He then talks about how his concerns were this way and that way if it was the cat. He says because the cats, they drag their prey up the mountain and out of people's, and then doesn't finish. He uses a lot of half sentences. We saw this with Letitia in the Gannon-Stoke case. Now, what he's saying is going up the mountain, obviously, he said if it was the cat. He also talks about the Colorado Trail and where that would be up the mountain, just across the highway from where he and Tyson are. Now, I'm curious if the authorities actually told Barry where the item was located and if it was actually exact or just the general area. We know he wasn't told what. He then goes on to talk about how the sheriff's department screwed everything up and botched the evidence. Here's a clip.
So they found her bike just right against that tree down there?
Well, no, it was on the ground. The wheel was facing, and the sheriff's department, they screwed everything up. They shouldn't have touched it.
Oh, really?
Left it. It's evidence. They pulled it up, and then the sheriff we had cars over here. Well, the sheriff let everybody drive through here, covering all, or messing up all the evidence. They were walking all over this area, which if somebody abducted her, they would have had foot tracks. They would have had fingerprints on the bike.
And
they let 10 other people touch the bike.
Oh, man.
I mean, we was really upset that first night. I was in Denver, so
oh, you were?
I didn't get here until 9 o'clock that night.
Interesting here where Barry says covering up when it comes to the evidence and then changes his wording to messing up. That's very, very interesting to me. And also interesting is about the cat. He says about the rain washing out the cat's tracks, but then when he starts talking about the abduction, he says that now the fingerprints on the bike and tracks will be wrecked and botched because of the sheriff's department didn't say anything about the rain. He needed to think that one through because now he's giving himself his own little discrepancies.
My concerns were this way and that way if it was the cat. Because the cats, they dragged their prey up the mountain and out of people's. We can't find sign for the cat, but we got rain like right away.
Yeah.
Could have washed away sign. They shouldn't have touched it.
Oh, really?
Left it. It's evidence. They pulled it up, and then the sheriff we had cars over here. Well, the sheriff let everybody drive through here, covering all, or messing up all the evidence. They were walking all over this area, which if somebody abducted her, they would have had foot tracks. They would have fingerprints on the bike.
And
they
that would have all been
let
gone.
10 other people touch the bike.
He's actually contradicting himself. Then he talks to Tyson about if you want to help. It's really hard to hear, but he says if you want to help, get out and cover some ground. He talks about them finding men's clothing up by the lake, which is Fous's Lake, and that was actually searched in the first few days, I believe, by dive teams. And then Barry talks about that Colorado trail, like I said, and how it goes all the way up to Denver, he says. That trailhead is right across the highway from where Barry and Tyson were talking, like I mentioned. He says a bunch of guys covered that road up in here. He had a bunch of friends that came that first week. And then he talks about something about getting up both sides of the hills are pretty tough. Now let's go back to the triangle. Here's my thoughts. Barry likes to be in control, as we've seen in various aspects, including his 25-second video, where he had control of what to say, how to say it, how long, and it was recorded. I also feel like he's meticulous and protective. And if Suzanne is going to be found, or when she's found, I feel like she's not just going to be out in the forest in the open. She'll be hidden really, really well. And from the sounds of it, Barry likes a lot of things to be private. He states that in Tyson's video with not wanting to talk to media. He says it's been emotional and he wants to be private. And when I think about Barry and Suzanne, it could be he really liked things to be private in their relationship as well. So in public, people see one thing, but at home, it could mean something very, very different. And like I said, Barry likes to be in control. So he's controlling the search in a sense as well. That video and talking to Tyson. And in my opinion, Barry is a hider. And it's definitely appearing like that as the days go by. He didn't search for Suzanne with Andy, even though he's an expert tracker. And according to Barry, in his words, it doesn't hurt to retrace the searches. He's also hiding from the media until recently, but he's defending himself, not helping with Suzanne. He's hiding the truth from the authorities. We know that because of the discrepancies in his timeline and his EVI information, and he even confirmed with his Bobcat that there was a mechanical thing that he did to it that he said was a discrepancy with what he gave to the authorities. So Bear's a liar. And so he had two theories, the one with the cat and the abductor. And he mentions in the video about money and the article that was found, as he states. Now, what if Barry is encouraging Tyson to get out the opposite to where Suzanne is? He says, get out there and search, go to the mountains, where in fact she's potentially the opposite way, meaning the triangle. So I feel like Barry likes things close and he's a hider. And I feel even with the likelihood of Suzanne being deceased, I think he'll like to keep a very close eye on her, even after she's gone. So with the mountain lion, he says that the cats like to drag their prey up the hill. With Tyson Draper, he talks about go and search. If you're going to go search, go up the mountains. And he said with the friends, they went up and they went around Colorado Trail. And he also said to not go into the triangle because he's confident she's not in there. Oh, Barry, quite contrary. The area is quite interesting when I look at it. We have Suzanne and Barry's house in the middle. But what is more interesting is just how secluded it really is. Now, I don't think that Suzanne is at the Morphew house or on that property. But I do wonder if she perhaps is over where Monarch RV Park is because of opportunity. If he did in fact grab his Bobcat that Saturday night, the night before Suzanne was reported missing, and he came back to the house, grabbed her, and went on a little trek with his security Bobcat, which doesn't have GPS. He very well could have gone the back road behind his house and over to where it's very, very quiet. No neighbors. And I mentioned this in a previous video. My family member who has 15 years of experience with a bobcat told me he could have easily detached his beeper on that bobcat. So he wouldn't have to go high up in the mountains, and also it would be really, really cold that night, below freezing at one point, in fact, in the middle of the night, from weather history. So the ground wouldn't be as frozen or hard as, say, going up the mountain, right? And he's on limited time, especially to meticulously cover it up or hide his tracks, and the tracks of his one tough animal, meaning the bobcat, meaning the machine. He is, remember, an expert tracker, and he'd be able to keep a pretty good eye on that location right from the comfort of his home or near it with those trail cams. And I believe the hundreds of searchers made Barry very, very uncomfortable. Maybe he wasn't just protecting his home that day. Maybe he's protecting a secret. And then the heat got a little too hot, and then he listed his house for sale. I do want to say there will be a follow-up video to this theory. I am just finding out some information, and if in fact what I find out is true, then there'll be a follow-up video and it'll piggyback on this theory, and then things are going to get a little scary for Barry. Let's have a chit chat below. Let me know what you think. Feel free to dive in, look into this triangle, and comment below. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't done so already. Please like and please share. Thank you so much for watching. See you soon. And things are going to get a little bit scary for Barry.